There we go. We'll just pretend that that first part was unnecessary for recording purposes. Sorry. Okay. Other questions?
So similarly, on the problem you just helped Ilona with, there's not really a set way of putting the rows and columns into separate subboards, right? We just want to group everything that's related together.
Yeah, that's right. And is it clear? Is it somewhat clear how you determine what things interact? I mean, you just kind of, you look at how, like, this square interacts with this one, which interacts with this one, and you just kind of see
Yeah.
it, and then you start sliding things around to try to get them close to each other. Otherwise, it's obnoxious to try to untangle that nest. So yeah, there's not really like a system. I mean, some people's pictures are going to look different than other people's pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's not like a set way of doing that either.
Okay.
Yeah. Did the lectures make sense? For the most part?
Yeah, the third video for me, I don't know what it was, if it was our Wi-Fi here or something, but it was kind of like, it was not, I guess, playing, like it would play for 10 seconds and then it would pause for about 2 minutes. And then it would play for another 10 seconds.
Really?
I don't know if anybody else had that same problem.
I had the exact same.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too. I thought it was my internet speed.
But not that bad, yeah.
I was like, I don't know how this group works, but I'll just copy down the very last like screen of it.
What in the world happened? So it paused for 2 minutes?
Yeah, it would buffer for a really long time, and then it would play like a short segment, and then it would, so it was kind of hard to like remember what the last half of the sentence had been.
Oh my goodness.
Mine wasn't quite that bad. It was more like 10-second pauses.
Yeah, mine was 10 seconds.
Really?
I'm wondering if for some reason the file size was a lot larger on that one, and maybe it was like the internet speed was struggling with
Maybe.
it.
Although I
You can
feel like it
you-
wasn't like that long. I don't know.
You can download it. You can download it, right? I mean,
Mhm.
each one of those downloadable. You can download it like natively to the machine and watch it. I'm pretty sure I watched it because I was really unsure of myself at that point. I watched it and it seemed like it played fine. I did have to delete one video because the audio and video got unsynced from one another somehow. Which is one reason why I've abandoned Ensemble. Well, I've abandoned Ensemble as a video editing tool. I'll use Zoom to do the video, and then I'll kind of upload it in Ensemble. But the video itself is I think way better now, doing it in Zoom. So that's what will happen from this point on. But you can download those things and watch them. Did they work out okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was it helpful? I sent those notes out. I uploaded those notes, right? Those notes are pretty, I think, fairly thorough for the most part. So in some ways, I mean, there's going to be times where I'm going to have to go up to the board in the next lecture, but most of the time, all this stuff is like right there anyways. Was it confusing what I was talking about, or was everything okay? Like, could you tell what was happening? Hopefully. But I will be on the board for some of the other for the future lectures for sure. Other questions?
I have a real quick question about the material on the second exam. I haven't really had a chance to look at it yet. Or what sections is it going to be over?
It'll be anything up through 8.3. So chapter 7 and anything from 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3. And that includes some of this basic root polynomial stuff.
Okay, so it would be a good idea to work on this homework before I start the exam.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see there's one problem that deals with root polynomials.
Okay.
So you could do it without root polynomials, but God help you if you do it that way. So root polynomials really make your life easier in these kinds of restricted position problems.
Okay, but you said there's only one of them on the exam that uses
Yeah.
the root polynomial stuff.
It has to do with men and women, matching men and women together. Okay. Yeah.
Slide math.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, there's some women that are refusing to be with certain men, vice versa. So yeah. Okay.
Classic example.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say by Rook polynomial standards, it's not a hard problem, but it would be hard if you didn't know anything about Rook polynomials to do it. Okay. And again, if something doesn't make sense about this, just let me know. And, you know, I can either make a video to kind of clarify some things or whatever. But hopefully it kind of makes sense. I'm gonna work on the videos a little bit tomorrow morning and even tonight a little bit for Thursday's lectures. So hopefully you'll have those well in advance. So.
Will you cover the last material? Am I on mute or no?
Nope, I hear you.
Okay, sweet. Will you cover the last material in your notes up until chapter 9 on how when you can't decompose a board, what to do? Will you cover that in a lecture or?
Yeah, I'll do that at the beginning of next time. That's
Okay.
not necessary for the test itself.
Okay, good.
But that's a clever technique. Yeah, what in the world do you do if you can't decompose the board, for crying out loud? And it's like hugely obnoxious. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you'll have a giant disaster of a nest. There's no way to disentangle the thing. But sometimes you can find one square that's kind of like the connective material for everything. And so what you can do is you can say, well, either I put a rook there or I don't. Excuse me, right? And if I put a rook there, that eliminates some stuff, and then you have two subboards to deal with. And if I don't put a rook there, then that means something also. That square is essentially not there, and then you can decompose the board again in a different way. So that's kind of what you do in that case. It's a very, very, very nice technique. That makes sense? Hopefully.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, other questions? What are all these options over here? That do you guys see these? Do you see the list of participants on the right? Do you see that?
Yep.
What is all this stuff that says go faster? What is that? Oh. Oh, you can like raise your hand. Is that what that is? What are you doing, Aaron?
I hit the raise your hand button, and then if you see my name, it says I'm raising my hand. So like if you were lecturing and then you saw that I had a question or something, and you would just say, oh. Wait.
Oh, I see. And I see that I can make you lower your hand. So I made that go away. Yeah. So what does yes mean? Oh, does that just like if I ask a yes or no question?
Yeah, like if you're gonna pull us or something.
Oh.
Ah,
More.
Interesting.
so I can say, does that make sense? You
tough.
could all click yes. Okay. Right. I see. That's interesting. Okay. There are reactions in here.
Yeah.
So go faster as a reaction.
Or slower.
Oh.
What is it? It's a reaction.
Yeah. You can't like actually speed up live time stuff.
Yeah.
It's just telling you to talk.
But you can tell the person to slow down.
So slow down, go slow. If you hit go slower, what does that do to the thing? What do I see?
It doesn't do anything. It's just a reaction.
It's just like, yeah.
It's telling you to go slower. As you speak.
Oh wait, but push it for me, and maybe I see something.
It just puts the reaction by my name.
Oh well, yeah, I can see it by your name. Can
Right.
anybody else see that though?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you don't do that. You don't do that independently. It's like you're going too fast for me. I want to secretly tell him. I think you're able to send individual messages down here, though. Do you see?
Really?
So you can
Yeah.
send individual messages.
To everyone. Oh.
Or you can change it.
Yeah.
Yes. So somebody did that to me yesterday when I was talking in discrete math for CS. They were sending like individual messages saying, "I don't understand this" or something. So cool. All right. What else? What else?
I have one more question for you.
Yes.
A general trend that I've been noticing for 8.1 and 8.2 problems is when we try to set them up, we either want to cast them as a union problem or an intersection of the complements problem. And based on which approach you want to take, that affects how we define the sets. And I was just curious if you have any more general tips on how to tell when we look at a problem which approach we want to take, unless it's like super obvious and tells us or something like that.
Yeah, that's just a matter of experience. If you tend, if when you're trying to describe what it is you want to count, you're tending to use the word or, then what do you think you're going to do?
Unions.
Yes. And when you're describing the thing you want to count with a bunch of ands, like I don't want this and I don't want that, or I do want this and I do want that and I do want that, then you're going to want to maybe define the sets in terms of complements of intersections or something. Does that make sense? That's the most general rule of thumb that I can give on that. Is like in your mind, as you're thinking it through, if you're tending to say or, it's probably a union setup you want to go with. And if you're saying and, it's probably an intersection setup you want to work with. And then you define your sets accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But it is, I mean, if you don't think it's fairly powerful, I don't know what to tell you. I think it definitely is. It's amazing what you're able to count. Stuff that doesn't seem like you should have any business being able to count some of these things, and yet you're able to do it somehow. So. What else? Oh man, Happy Pi Day. That was like 3 days ago, right?
Yeah.
Approximately. Yeah. What else? Other questions? Other questions? So I think you guys would like this. Here, I was gonna show something to you. I talked about this in one of my lectures already to some of my other classes today. But look at this.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
Wow, encouraging.
Have you seen?
That's in the U.S. Oh no.
No. So hang on. So this actually isn't too bad. So watch. Let me refresh this to see if there's any more data.
Can we not do this?
Yeah.
But there's actually good stuff over here because if you go over here, hang on. Why can't I watch this?
What's going on?
Expand this. Can you still see this?
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you look over on the right, can you see the right-hand side of this thing? I can't see it right now.
Nope.
Or do you not see it? Do you see the right-hand side of the graph or no?
I
We
can.
see up to where your cursor is when you moved it to the right.
Right here? You can only see up to there? Yeah, so this picture, I mean, it's interesting because it seems like we might be at a point that's kind of like this little inflection point that mainland China had, which is sort of interesting. And I was thinking through some of the other numbers just because the media, I don't know. Sometimes I'm not sure what they mean by some things that they're saying. But these numbers are sort of helpful. This graph, I think, it gave me reason to be like, oh, okay. You know, it was sort of hopeful for me in some ways. Because it showed, for instance, like in mainland China, they have like 1.4 billion people spread over a landmass that's the same size as the United States. We have 330 million people spread over a landmass the same size as mainland China. So it's far fewer people per square mile. And so I thought that was kind of interesting to think about. We have about like a little over 5,000 cases total. China capped out at 81,000, and they're much more tightly compacted over their land area than we are. So I don't know, that actually gave me a little bit of hope, because my wife was sort of freaking out about this. So I started looking at a lot of this data, and I don't know. I think that there's good reason to hope, even in the things that we have done as human beings. But we have even more reason to hope than that, because we know the end for sure. So that was just something I wanted to point out. Yeah.
What do they mean by in the yellow, the other locations? Like what? Like who? Like who's described in that?
That's the entire world.
Oh, okay.
So and the graph is starting to look a lot like this one. It looks like we're kind of like right here or something. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And there's other interesting data. For instance, like if you compare Switzerland to the United States, it's really interesting over there on the left. I mean, I was actually surprised the numbers were as small as they were, given like some of the things I'd read in the news. But that was sort of hopeful for me, I guess. Right now, there's like 52 cases in Ohio, which the way things were going, I was like, man, is there like 10,000 cases in Ohio? But so yeah. Still, best to be cautious. Anyways, just trying to give you guys a reason to hope.
I bet John Hopkins is getting some good publicity.
What's getting good publicity?
John Hopkins University.
Oh, have you seen that?
I have.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat.
Got a good chart.
Yeah, and they have about as much data as you could possibly want to look at in there. So yeah, I think it's funny that they have red everywhere, though. I know they could have chosen a less ominous color. So yeah. Well, what else? Other questions that you have? Anything else? Everything else making pretty good sense for the most part?
Yep.
Cool.
I think I might head out.
Yep.
Maybe.
Well, I think we probably all will. Okay. All right.
Bye,
Well,
everybody.
Right.
Thank
See
you.
ya, guys.
Thanks, Dr.
Bye.
Hammett.
Thanks, Dr.
Yep.
Hammond.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.